Disclaimer: most of this tutorial was planned and or was created before the Giga leak that occurred on October 12, 2024, which as of recording was about 2 days ago. This tutorial will not be covering anything that came out of that leak, not only because of its recency and how it was leaked, but I don't think it will add anything to this tutorial specifically. Hi, I'm Questionable Specimen. Some of you may know me for doing funny Nuzlocke challenges on Twitch, but I've also been in the Gen 5 ROM hacking community for the past 3 years. Not only have I been creating my own ROM hack, White 2 Lunatic mode, but lately I've been helping ApexCube with making brand new move animations for the latest update for Blaze Black and Volt White 2 Redux, which may or may not be out by the time I release this video. Today I want to show you guys the move animation editor in pokeweb and how it works. This animation editor has been around for about a year or so, and I did some documentation about it in the past, but recently I took it upon myself to tinker with this tool, and I have pretty much deciphered most of what this tool has to offer. For this video, I'll go over the requirements necessary for this tool and how you yourself can create move animations for your Gen 5 ROM hack. Starting off, let's talk about the setup you need for this to work. For the most part, you only really need pokeweb, which I'm going to assume you already have some knowledge of prior to watching this video. But for those who don't know, it is a Ruby/Python based all-purpose hacking tool created by ATLA. There are two versions of this tool, the online version and the offline version. For this tutorial, I'm using the offline version of this tool as the SPA editor is unavailable in the online version. Speaking of which, if you want to do SPA editing, you'll need 3 more tools. Before that, you'll need to follow instructions to enable SPA editing on the wiki section of pokeweb's GitHub page. First, you'll need to know how to use Nitro Effects Maker, which should come with the offline version of pokeweb. If you want to make custom sprites for your animation, you'll need to use both an image editing software and a way to convert that image to an A5 i3 format. In my case, I use Paint.net and NitroPaint respectively. Another important tool to have is Tinky, or however you pronounce it. It's a vital tool for transferring over NARC files, but most importantly, it's going to be the only way you'll be able to test and transfer your SPA edits to your ROM. I'll put the paths for both the move animation, the misc animations, and the SPAs right here. Finally, this one's more of a preference than anything, but I recommend that you use Notepad++ for this editor. While it is possible to use a regular Notepad for editing TXT and emitter files, I personally use Notepad++ since it's a version of Notepad with programming in mind. Providing some quality of life features such as numbers for each line, the ability to highlight, replace, and mark specific numbers and words, the ability to customize text color and background, and most importantly, the ability to have your files in tabs rather than having them all in separate windows. With that out of the way, let's talk about our next topic for this video, which are the commands. There are a grand total of 77 commands. However, only 40 of them are used, with the rest either being unused or used in something else we don't know about. We won't go over all of them since that will take a while, so I recommend you go over to my move command guide that I made, which should be linked in the description. There you will find a list of every used command, what they do, and what each parameter does. I've also created a list of all 61 usable backgrounds and all 738 SPAs. Don't worry too much about the number of SPAs, most of them are just stuff like Pokeball animations and stats effects. The move SPA should start right around here. The first command we're going to be looking at is the very first command, move camera. While I only have a full understanding of 2 of its parameters, I think it's more than enough to go over how it works. The main parameter we're going to focus on is parameter 2, which determines where the camera will move. For example, if you want to set the camera towards the user, you will set this parameter to 9. If you want to set the camera towards the Pokemon being hit by the attack, you will want to set the parameter to 11. There are other things you can do with the camera, but they are reserved for other commands such as shake screen and adjust camera. The next set of commands I'll cover are the SPA commands. Starting with the easiest one, load SPA does exactly what the command name states. The only parameter in this command determines which SPA to load, with almost every single move having their own separate SPA. One thing to note is that sometimes certain moves need more than one SPA. You can see that with moves that require 2 turns such as Solar Beam and Dig, moves that have different variations such as Water Ball and Technoblast, or oddballs like Metal Claw which has 2 SPAs, one for each claw. This is also the main reason why custom move animations are even possible. Most move animations you'll be making will most likely be a combination of 2 or more already existing move animations. Next, we have the commands that execute the attack animations, which there are a grand total of 7 of them. For a while, it was unknown as to what makes them all different, but after some tinkering with these commands and after figuring out how to fix a custom animation I made, I was able to figure out how to separate the commands into 3 categories. First are the general animations, which are do SPA animation and do SPA animation 2. These 2 commands are very similar, but the way you use them is vastly different. Let's go over the move animation that made me figure out how it worked. What you're seeing is an old animation I did for the move Accelerock, which combines the moves Quick Attack and Rock Blast. Notice how the move animation is not only relatively small, but also behind the sprite. For a while, I didn't know why that was the case, but then one day while trying to fix it, I decided to add a 2 to the animation command just to see what would happen. Suddenly, it started to make a bit more sense. Based on my move animation was Quick Attack, an animation where the camera doesn't move. But I'm using particles from Rock Blast, an animation where the camera does in fact move towards the user. And that's how I figured out the difference between each command. The main difference between the 2 move animation commands revolves around how the camera is used. The former is used when the camera moves, and the latter is used when the camera stays in place. Hey guys, it's me, Hughes back from the future. I just want to add something very quickly, since while most of this recording, such as the intro and the demonstration for both the Move Editor and the SPA Editor were recorded in October, this specific segment going over the move commands was recorded back in July. Yeah, plenty of things have since changed, primarily like the SPA related stuff, and it's primarily because of my involvement of Redux that I was able to learn a lot more to a point in which I wanted to remake my intro as well as include more things about the SPA editor. I want to make a recording here because I did forget to mention a very important difference between the 2 do SPA animation commands. So you can actually control where the animation is located within the command. However, while do SPA animation 2 lets you control both the X and Y axis, do SPA animation only allows you to control the Y axis, which is also a different parameter compared to its counterpart. On screen are the instructions on how to convert a do SPA animation command to a do SPA 2 command and vice versa. One last thing, the next section goes over the commands that specializes in projectiles, though I found out after that recording that not every projectile uses these commands. Some of them, usually single projectiles like Flame Burst, uses do SPA animation instead. Anyways, back to the video. The next categories are projectiles, which consist of 3 commands. The main one to focus on are do SPA projectile animation and do SPA projectile animation 3. These commands are used for projectiles that come from the user and head towards the opponent using parameters 4 and 5. If you want your projectile to go from the user to the opponent, you set parameter 4 to 9 and parameter 5 to 11. You can also go the other way around, which can be seen in moves like Power Swap. If the projectile has an arc, you can use the 8th parameter to adjust the height of said arc, though you can't change anything else about the projectile itself without editing the emitters themselves. Much like the last 2 commands, the main difference between the 2 is that the former is used when the camera moves and the latter is used when the camera doesn't move. There's also another command that's a bit of an outlier, and that is do SPA projectile animation 2. That one controls a projectile that originates somewhere other than the user and is heading towards the opponent. The only 3 moves with this command are Shadow Ball, Fusion Flare, and Fusion Bolt. The last 2 are a bit more interesting as they don't belong in any of the other 2 categories. Do SPA's green animation is a command that is primarily used when the move either takes up the entire screen or takes place in the center of the battlefield such as Trick or Bolt Tackle. And there's do SPA misc animation, which is a command exclusive to Magma Storm and Hurricane, and due to how those 2 moves load in the editor, I have no idea what it does. My guess is that it's associated with how the emitter circles around the opponent, but it's honestly kind of hard to tell. The last command I'll go over are the color-based commands. If you ever see a sprite's color change, such as in the elemental punches, this is primarily due to the change color command. The parameters to note are parameter 1 and parameter 5. Parameter 1 is a 3-variable boolean that pretty much every sprite affecting command has, and it is used to determine which sprite is affected by the command. 14 means the user is affected, 16 means that the opponent is affected, and 18 means that both sprites are affected. Then there is parameter 5, which actually determines the color. Converting it from hex color format to 15-bit and then translating that to decimal seems to also do the trick. My guy has a link to the converter if you want to see for yourself. Finally, if you want to instead change the background color, you can use change background color, which with the exception of parameter 1, pretty much has the same parameters as change color. Now that we know about the commands, let's create a move animation just so you guys are following along, and we're going to do so with one of the most simple custom move animations we can create in my opinion. That move being dual wing beat. The first thing we're going to look for is a base, or a move that we are going to be editing. Double kick seems like the best move we can edit here. The next thing we'll do is to figure out which particle effects we want to use. I want some feathers here, so let's go grab the animations for wing attack. Now that we have the moves we need, let's get editing. Alright, so this is going to be a little bit different compared to the rest of the tutorial, since I do think that it is a lot better if I just demonstrate how exactly this works. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and download the animation. So I have wing attack here. In order to download stuff, you just have to look it up, click on the info button, and click on download animation script. Now one thing I actually like to do is I want to make sure that the skeleton of the move animation, which is double kick, is actually nicknamed to dual wing beat. That way I can easily tell which move is which. You can also probably do it with wing attack's animation right here, but since there's only one animation, it's not really worth it. Alright, so the very first thing you want to do is you want to take this line and delete it immediately. That is a bug. That line should not be there, and hopefully it gets patched by the time I make this video. But for the time being, yeah, just delete that line as soon as you start editing. Alright, next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and copy the load SPA for wing attack and paste it right here. I'm just gonna put it right here. This is the only way you'll be able to load the SPA for wing attack in the first place. Alright, next we're gonna want to replace the foot in double kick with the feather effects from wing attack. One thing I forgot to mention when talking about the animation commands is that all 7 commands have 2 parameters in common. There's the first parameter, which tells the code which SPA to load. In this case, it's loading this SPA. And then the second parameter tells the code which emitter to use. The best way to do that is to simply go into the pokeweb website and change the URL to localhost 9292/spas/whichever SPA you're looking for. In this case, we are looking for double kick, so we're going to be looking for SPA 190. Now, here in the SPA editor, you'll be able to edit a lot of things. However, we're going to go over that later. For now, what's very important is to go over here to view edits in Nitro Effects. I'm going to click here, and what that will do is that it will load the Nitro Effects Maker tool along with the preview tool. And what this does is it allows you to see the animations for each emitter, which is very convenient since we want to see which emitter is which. So as you see right here, we are actually going to be looking for emitter 1. So let's go ahead and we're going to do SPA animation 1, Control F, and we're going to mark it. Now let's do the same exact thing, but with wing attack. We're going to be looking for SPA 182, and once again we're going to be clicking View Edits and Nitro Effects. Alright, and we already figured out which emitter we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for emitter 0. So let's go ahead and grab this, and we're going to go ahead and replace these two. Alright. So now we're ready, so let's go ahead and go over to the move that we are going to replace the animation with. In this case, since this is Redux, we already have dual wing beats right here. What we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to choose dual wing beat. Before you upload, however, you want to change this to 0. Otherwise, it won't upload at all. In fact, a pop-up will show up. Let me actually show you the pop-up. A pop-up will show up telling you to set it to 0. So upload it, and we're going to export. Alright, I have my save file loaded. So one thing I should probably mention is that you're going to want to have a good spot for testing these move animations. My personal recommendation would be Route 20. The reason why that's the case is because not only is there the common grass very close to Burbank City, but there's also the double grass right here, which allows you to test double barrel moves such as Boom Burst. However, since we're going to be testing dual wing beat, which is a multi-hit move, we actually want to go ahead and go to the Pokemon League. In the vanilla games, the final cave is has 100% Boulders, which is really nice for multi-hit moves. Though since this is Redux, I'm not likely to actually encounter this. Alright, cool. Right on. Close enough. Let's see what this animation looks like. Alright, well, it's not perfect to say the least, but that's okay. One thing to note is that move animation editing requires a ton of trial and error. So there will be multiple times where you're just going to be seeing what the move looks like, be like, that doesn't look right, and you're going to go ahead and like fix things. So let's see what we can do to fix this. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to move this right here. We're going to replace this hit effect, which does not really fit Dual Wing Beat. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and we're going to go ahead and delete this. This should at least solve the problem where the feather effects seem to appear too early. And the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to replace the play sound effect with the hit effect from Wing Attack, which should be this one. So replace all of them with this, replace all of them with this. And in order to make things a little more interesting, we're actually going to lower the pitch of the first set of play sound effects. So in order to do that, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Parameter 5. I'm going to go -600 and -400 respectively. Alright, let's see what the move looks like right now. Alright, so that looked a lot better, but the problem is that you may have noticed that the feather effects stay for a little bit too long for a multi-hit move. We're going to go ahead and fix that. So in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and go to the SPA editor. And we're going to go for the SPA editor 182. So here you'll be able to edit a bunch of things. You can edit the color, I can like show you like right now. You can edit the color of the move to be like a slightly different color. You can edit stuff like the base scale, the air resistance. But what we're here for is we are here to edit the particle duration, which is right here. The particle duration is 74, we want to change it. Let's go ahead and change it to what the particle duration is for the foot animation, which, as you can see, is 20. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to export the SPA and we'll download the edited SPA for you. This really just depends on like how pokeweb will work in the future, but right now it's a bit glitched, so it doesn't automatically change the SPA for you. You're just going to have to do it yourself. So let's go ahead and show you guys how we can actually transport that. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the exported black and white 2 file and we're going to go ahead and open Tinke. Here we want to go ahead and go through the files. We're going to go to A006. Unpack. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to find 182, which is right here. Alright, we're going to go ahead and click on change file and we're going to click on the SPA we just extracted. Go over here, click on this, pack, save ROM. And we're going to go ahead and just this, and now we'll create a brand new ROM. And now we're going to see what this looks like with the newly added SPA. Alright, there you go. That's a lot better. One more thing before we move on. Whenever you edit the effects of an SPA, it will also affect the move that it's based off of. In this case, the animation for Wing Attack got shorter, but in most cases, you want to make sure that the edited SPA is separate in order to not affect any other move. There are 2 ways of doing this, but for this tutorial, I'll go over the slightly more complicated way, which is to add the SPA rather than replace it. This method requires one more tool that I didn't go into full detail on, which is KNarc. This tool is primarily used by ROM hackers to unpack NARC files for tools that can't handle files unpacked by Tinke. Black and White Trainer Editor is a very infamous example. So first open your NDS file using Tinke. Then you want to go ahead and go to A006 and extract. Now you want to make sure that you put this file in the same folder that KNarc is located. Plus you want to make sure you rename this to 6.narc, otherwise it will be saved as a regular file. Next thing you want to do is you want to open your command prompt and you want to make sure you type in the following command: knarc.exe-d spas-u 6.narc. And what this does is that it creates an unpacked version of your 6.narc file. And this is exactly where you're going to put your newly created SPA file. So what you want to do is you want to take this, rename, and you're going to name it in the exact same format as these files right here. So this will be 6_50, and then we're going to name it 739. And before we finish renaming it, we want to go ahead and turn this into a .bin file. Once that's done, we're going to move this file into our new folder. We then go back to knarc, open our command prompt, and we're going to go ahead and go with this command, knarc.exe-d spas-p 6.narc. And what this does is that it creates a brand new 6.narc ready to be implemented. So let's go ahead and open Tinke. We're gonna go A006 and we're gonna go to change file. And then we're gonna click on 6.narc and we save. We only need the pack here. Now a good way to tell as to whether or not your changes were implemented is by grabbing the new NDS file, opening it on Tinke, and unpack A006. And then we scroll all the way down, and there it is. As you can tell, it also reformats itself into an SPA file. It does say APS, but that is just SPA backwards. I'm not entirely sure why that does that, but yeah. Now you'll just need to make sure you do one last step regardless of whether or not you use a pokeweb edited ROM as your base. You want to go back to the move editor and you want to replace 182, which is the SPA for wing attack, with the SPA number associated with your newly implemented SPA. In this case, we're going to replace 182 with 739. Once you implement your change, if you carried over your newly made NDS file to pokeweb to replace your old one, then you can see your new SPA immediately. If you encounter a blue error screen while testing the move, then that means that the SPA file wasn't implemented. If you are like me and you have a non-pokeweb edited ROM as your base, then you can now extract your new animation as a bin file. Finally, let's go ahead and create an animation for a move that requires a lot more SPA editing. We're going to do so by creating a move that I recently made for Redux, Dropkick. This move is perfect for this final section because when it comes to using the move editor, you only really need one move, low sweep. And the only edit that I need to make is simply a sound effect edit, which is this right here, and that's it. Alright, and we're gonna go ahead and click View Edit Nitro Effects. Now, the one thing you might notice when opening this is you can't really edit anything around here. You can't do anything. All you can do is simply preview, open the preview window, which is this and all. However, there is a way to actually edit this, and it is by simply turning it into an ISPA file. Just simply go to File, Export, and Unpack. We're going to call it dropkick.ispa. And voila! Now we have both the emitter files and the texture files along with the ISPA that we can use to edit stuff. So we open this right here, just move this to my second monitor. As you can see, now you can actually go ahead and go into the emitters and click on like all the emitters. You can see like you can edit stuff like what type of shape it is, what type of particle it is. You can go to emitter settings, you can like change things around. Let me actually go to emitter 1. You can like change the location of it, so let me just zoom out and like just like do this. You can like change the X position, you can like change the air resistance, and so on and so forth. If you want to like reset, you just simply click this button and you're all set. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and extract 3 more moves. Those moves being Leaf Blade, Aromatherapy, or Pedal Dance, depending on how you're feeling, and Blaze Kick. Now you may be wondering, wait a second, why do you need Blaze Kick? You already have a kicking animation. Well, simply I actually want a different foot texture. I want specifically this one right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply Control-C, and then we're going to Control-V to get this copy. We're going to Control-X, and we're going to paste it here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to delete this, and rename this to Texture 1. And if we open it in the ISPA file, Now the ISPA is able to detect this texture. Now the reason why we want to do that is because we want to actually recolor this foot to be green. So now let's go ahead and add the emitter file for the foot animation, and we're going to move it over to our notepad. Here you can edit a bunch of things, but as of right now we're just going to focus on editing the color. Now the color looks a little bit different compared to your usual RGB value, and that's simply because we are looking at 15-bit RGB, which only goes up to 31. Alright, so let's say I pick this color for example. In order to translate from this to this, it is actually extremely easy. All we really need to do is you want to take the RGB value and we're going to divide it by 8. Alright, that gives us 7, so we're going to put it here. Since the green is maxed out, we actually want to keep the green at 31, which funnily enough is not actually 255, but rather it is 248. Finally, in the event where a move is divisible by 8 but is a decimal, all you have to do is round to the nearest whole number. And from here, we're actually going to go ahead and make it so that all the colors are the same. Sometimes you actually want it to be different, but in the case of this move, we don't really need it to be different colors. Once we save the emitter files, simply just move this over to Nitro Effects, and now you can see that the color has changed. Alright, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and grab the leaf effects from Leaf Blade. Simply go here, we're gonna open the ISPA file, and we're gonna detect which emitter we're going to be carrying over. In this case, we are actually going to be carrying over emitter 0. So we're gonna simply grab this, and we're actually going to replace the emitter 0 in low sweep since we really don't need it for dropkick. Next we're going to go ahead, we're going to take these, copy, paste, Ctrl X, Ctrl V. And then from here we're actually going to want to reorder, there's a couple of texture files. So we're actually going to delete this since we really don't need it. Then we're going to go ahead, we're going to turn this into texture 0, turn this into texture 1. And then we're also going to go ahead and remove the dash copy from textures 2 and textures 3. Once that's done, we're going to need to go ahead and carry these over to our notepad, and we're going to make sure that everything's correct. So this should be texture 0 now, this should be texture 1 now, and then if we needed to, we could change these, but because these were already named textures 2 and 3 respectively, we don't actually need to change anything. But there's this texture right here. Now, wait a second, what is this one? This is this random dot that you can see in Leaf Blade. Just to give you an idea, it is like these things right here. Now you may notice that Nitro Effects didn't actually show this texture. This is rather common where some textures and colors aren't detectable by Nitro Effects or pokeweb's SPA editor. It's actually the main reason why I actually went over the colors and stuff like that. So we're gonna go ahead and fix that entirely. Let's make this texture too. Now let's go ahead and open the ISPA file. Oh, what's this? Texture with name texture 3 not found? Alright, well, we certainly did forget an important step, so let's go ahead. Instead of opening it in Nitro Effects, we're going to open it in Notepad. As you can see, the ISPA is able to detect which emitter they are looking for and which texture they're looking for. In this case, they are missing texture 3, and that's the only one they're missing. So we're going to copy, and we're going to go ahead and paste, and make sure that this is texture 3, texture 3. Likewise with emitters, like if we have another emitter, which we don't, we can simply do this. And then once we save, the ISPA file will be able to detect it. But for now, let's actually remove that. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and open the ISPA file right now. And voila! Now we have it here, and just make sure, just to show you that this isn't like Leaf Blade's ISPA, you can see the foot again. Now we're going to add one more thing, which is the pedal from aromatherapy. We're going to use texture 2. We're going to go ahead and do this, Ctrl V, Ctrl X, do this, and let's see here. We're going to go ahead and make this texture 4. And make sure that our emitters actually see that, so we're going to go to emitter 0. Alright, so we're going to simply go ahead and replace these two texture 2 files with texture 4. And we're going to make sure that the ISPA file recognizes texture 4. Alright, and let's open it again. Alright, so I think now we can easily test this. So, in order to turn this back into an SPA file, simply go to Export Pack, and we're gonna make this dropkick.spa. Alright, and now I'm gonna go ahead and quickly replace the SPA for low sweep, so yep, I'll see you guys in a bit. Oh. Well, that ain't right. No, I could have sworn I placed textured. Oh! Okay, yeah, there was another one. But there's also a few other things that we might want to actually adjust. So let's go ahead and close this very quickly. Alright, so let's go ahead and open this in Nitro Effects. We're going to fix a few things. So for starters, let's look at emitter 1. So I think the foot animation was a little bit too small. We're going to increase the scale by 0.2. We're going to save. That's the only one thing we're going to need to do. And likewise, we're going to want to do the same thing with the base scale of this. And since these two actually look a little bit too close together, we're going to increase the emitter. We're actually going to decrease the emitter volume a little bit. Alright, like that. But then there's one more thing, and as you can see, there's both the discoloration of the pedal and also the size. Let's go over the easiest one, which is the discoloration. So let's go ahead and go back to emitter 0. We're gonna want to go ahead and make all of this 31. This wouldn't turn this all white, but rather it will make it so that there's no color added onto textures 2, 3, and 4. Let's go ahead and show off what I mean. Yep, see, now you can see that the petals are now pink color, but they're still too thick. Let's fix that. So in order to open these, you're going to want to get an image editing software, which in my case I have paint.net. So let's go ahead and open paint.net. So every single particle is 60 by 60, but we actually want to decrease this size just a tiny bit. Now I already did this previously, so I'm just going to simply bring over the new one. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to delete the back, delete this entirely, and we're going to save as texture 4. Alright, so now let's go ahead and open this again, and up. Unexpected ID field length. So that is another issue that we're going to need to look into. So you can't simply just edit this with paint.net and call it a day. You're going to want to also go ahead and convert this into an A5, i3 format. So in another folder, I'm going to go ahead and open Nitro Paint. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to carry over texture 4, create texture, and as you can see, there is no format. We're going to want to convert it into a format, which is A5, i3, convert, file, save, and you're going to want to make sure that you're replacing the texture file that you are currently trying to fix. Alright, now the editor is opening properly and is loading the effects properly too. So let's go ahead, we're going to pack, save this as an SPA file, and we're going to go ahead and bring this change over to our copy of Black 2. So, see you in a bit. Alright, move looks really good, and I think with that, we're done. And with that, I think I went over everything we need to know. I normally don't make these types of tutorials, but who knows, maybe I'll make a part 2 if any major development occurs or another tool is made, but for now, that's all we need to talk about. I hope this tutorial is helpful, and if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. That's all I gotta say. See ya.